Hello and welcome to Lit Illuminated. I'm thrilled to have you here with me today. This is a space for us to look at books, the way they resonate with us, the way they help us see patterns and systems that can inform us about ourselves as well as the world around us. And today I'm going to be talking to you about Ali Smith's Summer. A friend of mine told me about her season series and said that she was really loving them, so, recommended that I pick them up. I listened to Autumn and then I listened to Summer because those were the two that were available to me. And I love them so much that I actually went out and got the books. And Summer so far really resonated with me because of the way it talks about time. And if you've been following me, you know that I'm always looking at the way time is handled and managed in books, whether it's a memoir or fiction, as well as my obsession with the spiral of time. And just to reiterate that, the spiral of time is past, present, and future, and the connection going in a spiral of time that if you collapse that spiral down, everything's happening simultaneously. Everything's in the now in some way. So you have that connection, that immediate connection to past selves, ancestors, as well as future selves and ancestors. So moving back and forth. This book deals with time. Summer deals with time, which I love so much. But to just kind of talk a little bit about what resonated with me wasn't just about the time. It was the way that Smith develops the characters and developed this link through time. So to give a brief overview, we have Sasha starts out the book. We're hearing about Sasha, her brother Robert, her mother Grace. And so I'm just going to start there before I kind of get into the next group of people, because as it builds and the people get introduced, it's just this other layer of time that not only takes us towards the future, but also takes us to the past. So Sasha. And I was literally laughing at the very beginning of this. So at the start of this novel, Sasha is reading a quote out, and so she said, "Whether I shall turn out to be the heroine of my own life," Sasha mother says. Then she says, "Sasha, what is that? Where is that from?" And then this starts this whole conversation on quotes and who it gets attributed to, and that you can't just take a quote and say it's now your quote, and what does that mean? And as a former English professor, it was really hilarious, this idea of getting a source from the web and saying it was quoted by this person. But to her mother's point, well, how do you know that that person said that? How do you know that that person didn't say it from somebody else? And this kind of back and forth between the two, and her mother so insistent on it, and Sasha just being like, whatever, mom. And this comes back. So I love that moment. Not only was it just hilarious to listen to and to read, but because it resonated, but also that how it comes back in the story. So we're getting into this mother-daughter scene here. We know that she has a brother. At one point, her brother's texting her before school to say, "Please come help me. I need your help." And she's reading the text and looking at it and thinking, okay, he's not joking here. This is something serious. But we do know that from the past stories of Robert that he, gets into mischief. He's kind of like too smart for his own good in some way. And so he's always thinking outside the box and new ways of thinking about the world. He's always studying things. And so he's just kind of bored with everyday life. And so he does these things to help him connect to the world. So she finds him at the beach and she goes over to him and he's like, close your eyes. She's, sister, brother, siblings, right? Like, no, I don't want to. Like, what are you going to do? Is this a joke? Are you going to do something to me? And he's like, no, don't. It's not that. Just close your eyes and then like give me your hand. And so she's like, oh, what does he want? Like, why is he doing this to me? And so she closes her eyes and gives him her hand. And then this is the moment that like starts a string of events. And it is him super gluing an egg timer into her hand. And so the quote after that is that time is dimensional. Robert Greenlaw has just demonstrated not just the curve and the dimensionality of time, but also its multiple nature, and given himself a total high by asphyxiating irremovably a piece of curved and dimensional time into the curved and dimension of a mortal hand. So if that gives you any sense of Robert, right? Like he was like, this is brilliant. I did this, right? And so he runs off, so happy in his little high. And a couple comes over and helps Sasha. So later on, Robert doesn't go to school. He's home. He hears people talking. He's trying to just listen in. He comes into the kitchen when he's found out, and there he meets Charlotte and Arthur. And he immediately has this like brilliant love connection with Charlotte. Like she is light, she is joy, she is everything that he didn't think life had, but there she was in one person. Well, it turns out that Arthur and Charlotte are the ones that took Sasha to A&E to help her get the superglued timepiece off her hands. And so this then started a whole conversation with Arthur and Charlotte with the family. And the Arthur and Charlotte are in the process of taking a piece of, well, they didn't know what it was at the time, but a piece of artwork to a gentleman that their mother instructed after her death. Was it a mother? Somebody instructed after I can't believe I just forgot who it was. After her death, that it needed to go to this man. And so you're like, okay, that's interesting. So they have this whole conversation. They're like, why don't you come with us? Grace is indicating that she, used to be in the theater and used to do acting. And it just so happened that this is the same city the town that she, kind of was doing this one summer, like was on a theater group at one summer. And basically it became an adventure. And they all go to this place to see this gentleman to hand over what seems just like a big rock or something. And then we learn about Daniel. And Daniel is the person that they're actually going to. We don't know that at the time, but we figure it out as we're learning a little bit more about Daniel. And he is in his 103 or something like that. And he switches back in time, back and forth between time. He was in an internment camp during the World War. And so he goes back and forth into that space. He goes back and forth into conversations and things that like letters that he writes to his sister Hannah, who obviously isn't getting them because they've been separated by the war. And this just kind of this conversation back and forth, and then he'll come back into the present when like a nurse comes in or the neighbor comes in to give him soup or whatever, and he just keeps kind of switching back and forth between time. And so his section of the book is this really fluid time space. And then we have his sister's voice in there. Hannah comes in and she's telling her story a little bit in letters that she's writing to Daniel, which never reach him. But there's this really beautiful parallel of a brother-sister relationship that we have with Sasha and Robert, as well as Hannah and Daniel. That's kind of going on in this space. And then we find out that they actually do go and see Daniel, and they do give him this piece, which is part of an art piece. And he's like, it's united again. They're back together, the two pieces. And in this moment, he sees Robert and he sees his sister, and he's like, here she is, but in the shape of a boy. And again, this is this movement of time, this fluidity of time, and how we're seeing that through Daniel's lens as well as Robert in that space. And then, so they've talked to Daniel, they've given his thing. At the same time, Arthur becomes immediately in love with somebody that's like the neighbor that's taking care of Daniel, much like the Charlotte Robert moment. But this one's, more age appropriate, and they do get together in that space. And so when they're in the town where Daniel is currently living, again, this goes back to Grace and where she was when she was younger, and with a theater group, they were doing A Winter's Tale, I think it was. And so there's a scene where we see her in the present day searching for a church. And obviously there's some connection there. We don't quite know what it is. And then she goes back to when she was younger and in the theater group, and then like back to her present day. But there's this beautiful section about summer, and you think about the title of the book being about summer. And she kind of goes in this whole thing about like, you're searching for this idea that you're searching for summer, and it's always something you're looking forward to, but then when you're in it, like you're already missing it. So let's just see. And some are surely really all about an imagined end. We head for it instinctively, like it must mean something. We're always looking for it, looking to it, heading towards it all year, the way a horizon holds the promise of a sunset. We're always looking for the full open leaf, the open warmth, the promise that will one day soon surely be able to lie back and have summer done to us. One day soon we'll be treated well by the world, like there really is a kinder finale, and it's not just possible but assured. That's a natural harmony that be spread out at your feet, unrolled like a sunlit landscape just for you, as if what it was always all about, your time on earth, was the full, happy stretch of all the muscles of the body on a warmed patch of grass, one long, sweet stem of that grass in the mouth. Carefree, what a thought. Summer. I just love that so much. This idea of how much we idolize and we dream of summer. We dream of that space of warmth and everything in this like perfect place of freedom and carefree and sunshine. And then we spend the whole year kind of going back to it. And then also in this space, she's talking about how we don't even essentially enjoy it because we're already thinking it's going to be gone, and we're going to be back into that winter, autumn, spring space, hoping and dreaming for that summer. I just thought that was really beautiful. And so then we get this story of her back when she was in the theater group and why she was searching for this church, because she left a meeting, a rehearsal, in a huff and upset about things. And she came across this church and she heard someone in there, and it was a joiner, and he was fixing one of the pews. And then they had this conversation. They had tea out in the cemetery. They had a conversation. They laid in the sun and just kind of like enjoyed the warmth of the summer. And it was a beautiful moment between two people. We found out his name's John. Nothing romantic happened. It was just a moment in time. But during their moment of time, he says to her, hey, he says, come with me. I found the grandest little thing day before yesterday, an old stone, when I was having my break. And so he takes her to this place that has moss on it. And he says, listen to this. The tree in me shall never die. Be I ashes, be I dust. That is the tree that joins the sky to earth and us. The tree in me shall never die. No lover's sleeping breath compare with her shy music in the sky of leaves and air. And they both just kind of sit there and let that resonate with them. And then she's like, well, is there a name? Is there anything? And no, there's no attribution to who said it. There's no name of the person that died. Nothing. It's just this quote, which takes us all the way back to the beginning of Sasha with that quote and her mom being like, well, who said it? And you can't just put it there. But at the same time, it resonated so much with her so that she went back to the church years later and tried to find it again. The church was kind of boarded up in disrepair. She did eventually find it. She tried to take a picture of it. But when she went to look at the picture later on, she just realized it was covered with grass and everything, so she couldn't even see the words. And so we're back to that space of time, quotes, the words, how, claiming who says what, who has that claim on that time. And no one really does because it's all happening simultaneously in that space. So there's so much more I can talk about, like how Smith brings art into this space. There's film discussion. There's actual pieces of art, like the thing they take to Daniel and that conversation. There's also kind of kitschy art that's in here as well, which it's just beautiful, and sketches, and you're seeing time through artwork as well. I was finished this and I immediately, contacted my friend who told me about it. I was like, I think this is the best book I've read so far this year. Like, it had those components that I love, the way the twisting and turning of time, the way that we also get like Einstein theory in here, we get art, we also allow the narrative to unfold in such a way that those time jumps don't seem so abrasive or in juxtaposition of each other. They just feel fluid and allow you to sink deep into each moment as it is the now. Allie Smith, Summer. I still need to read Spring and Winter, so I'll let you know how that all goes. But I definitely recommend Summer. Thank you for joining me today. I wish you all the best and send you love and light.